While America focuses on foreign threats, a 68-year-old ghost silently commands New York's underworld, and a Chicago mastermind revolutionized organized crime by abandoning violence for sophisticated fraud schemes. From cryptocurrency empires to labor union infiltration, these are 10 deadliest mafia bosses secretly ruling America in 2025. Seion Mgilovich. Seion Mgilovich, born on June 30, 1946 in Ukraine, is a notorious Russian crime boss who leads a highly structured criminal organization similar to an American mafia family. Many of its 250 members are his relatives. He is recognized by European Union and United States agencies as the boss of all bosses of most Russian mafia syndicates worldwide. Seion Mgilovich's initial significant wealth came from defrauding fellow Soviet Jews, primarily Ukrainians and Russians, who were eager to emigrate, including to Israel, where he briefly lived in 1990. He promised to sell their assets at fair market value and forward the proceeds, but instead pocketed the money. Mgilovich served 2 prison terms, one for 3 years and another for 4 years, for currency dealing offenses. In the 1980s, the FBI identified him as a key money laundering contact for the Solntsevskaya Bratva. Seion Mgilovich was implicated in a major tax fraud scheme in the early 1990s, where untaxed heating oil was sold as highly taxed car fuel, leading to significant tax losses for Central European countries. In the Czech Republic, the scandal alone cost taxpayers around $5 billion and involved murders and an attempted assassination of a journalist. In 2003, the FBI added Seion Mgilovich to its wanted list for defrauding investors in YBM Magnex International Inc. after previous attempts to charge him with arms trafficking and prostitution failed. Arrested in Moscow on January 24, 2008 for suspected tax evasion, he was released on bail in July 2009. Mgilovich was placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted list in 2009, removed in 2015 due to his residence in a non-extradition country, and remains elusive despite ongoing international efforts to prosecute him. Mgilovich and his associate Mkyov ceased traveling to the West in the late 1990s. On April 6, 2022, the FBI, in collaboration with the U.S. Department of State, renewed efforts to apprehend Mgilovich, offering up to $5 million for information leading to his arrest and/or conviction. Today, Mgilovich still operates his business as a free man. Just like Mgilovich, the next on our list has managed to evade the authorities despite his numerous offenses. Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes. Nemesio Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, is a Mexican drug lord and leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJN. He is the most wanted person in Mexico and one of the most wanted in the U.S., with rewards totaling $15 million and 30 million pesos for information leading to his arrest. El Mencho began his criminal career in the Milenio Cartel as a member of the Assassin Squad protecting drug lord Armando Valencia Cornelio. Following Valencia's arrest in 2003 and an attack by Los Zetas, El Mencho relocated to Guadalajara and allied with the Sinaloa cartel. After the arrests of top Milenio cartel leaders and the death of Ignacio Coronel, the cartel split into 2 factions, La Resistencia and Los Matazetas, led by El Mencho. Following a violent internal war, Los Matazetas emerged victorious and rebranded as the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJN, solidifying their influence in western Mexico. As leader of the CJN, El Mencho expanded the organization through territorial growth and corruption, making it one of Mexico's leading criminal groups. His aggressive violence and direct attacks on security forces earned him a reputation as a principal enemy of the state. The downfall of other top crime bosses further boosted his status. El Mencho consolidated operations in Jalisco and neighboring states, overseeing the CJN's methamphetamine production and trade in Jalisco, Colima, and Guanajuato. On August 25, 2012, Mexican federal police engaged in a shootout with CJN gunmen in Tonaya, Jalisco, killing 6 but failing to capture El Mencho. To prevent his arrest, the CJN blocked roads in Guadalajara by setting vehicles on fire, allowing him to escape. On March 19, 2015, CJN gunmen ambushed a federal police convoy in Ocotlan, Jalisco, killing 11 people. And on April 6, 2015, they killed 15 policemen in San Sebastian del Oeste. Despite multiple attempts to capture him, including a 2011 arrest warrant and a 2014 U.S. indictment, El Mencho remains a significant figure in the drug trade. The U.S. and Mexican government never got to El Mencho, but the next on our list was steadily making deals with the government to stay out of prison. Laborio Balomo. Laborio Salvatore Barney Balomo, born on January 8, 1957, is an Italian-American mobster and the boss of the Genovese crime family in New York City. He started his criminal career as a member of the 116th Street crew under Saverio Sammy Black Santora. In 1990, Kenneth McCabe, an organized crime investigator, identified Balomo as the acting boss of the Genovese crime family following Vincent Gigante's indictment in the Windows case. On June 11, 1996, Balomo was indicted on Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO charges, including the murders of Ralph De Simone and Antonio Di Lorenzo, extortion, and labor racketeering. Di Lorenzo was found dead in his backyard in New Jersey, and De Simone was discovered in the trunk of his car at LaGuardia Airport. Despite passing 2 polygraph tests, Balomo was accused of using lithium to beat the tests. In February 1997, prosecutors dropped the murder charges and offered him a plea deal for extortion charges, which he accepted, resulting in a 10-year prison sentence. While imprisoned on July 13, 2001, Balomo was indicted for money laundering linked to the Genovese family's control of the ILA, pleading guilty to lesser charges, which extended his release date to 2004. On February 23, 2006, Balomo and over 30 Genovese members were indicted on racketeering charges, including the 1998 murder of Ralph Coppola. Peluso pleaded guilty to his involvement in the murder, but the government lacked evidence to prove that he had met with Balomo. With insufficient evidence to charge Balomo with the murder, the government offered him a plea bargain for mail fraud in 2007. Balomo accepted the deal, receiving 1 additional year in prison instead of 4, largely due to a tearful plea from his daughter Sabrina and her 3 brothers to Judge Louis A. Kaplan. Balomo was released from prison on December 1, 2008. Bello has remained the official boss since then. Unlike Balomo, the next boss on our list has managed to keep the whole world guessing about his involvement with the mafia. Dominico Cheffelu. Dominico Cheffelu, born on January 10, 1947 in Palermo, Sicily, is an Italian-American mobster who has been the boss of the Gambino crime family in New York City since July 2011. After moving to the United States, he began smuggling heroin for the Gambino family and was convicted in 1982, serving 6 years in prison. In 1990, John Gotti inducted him as a made man, and he later became part of the Sicilian Zip crew. Cheffelu faced several legal challenges, including convictions for civil and criminal contempt in the early 1990s and was named family underboss in 2005. In 2008, Dominico Cheffelu was indicted on racketeering conspiracy charges as part of Operation Old Bridge. He pled guilty and was sent back to prison for 24 months but was released in 2009. Since then, Cheffelu has remained under the radar of both law enforcement and the media, successfully running the Gambino family without federal interference. Reports from 2015 suggested that Frank Cali, a rising star in the family, had taken over as acting boss, with Cheffelu stepping back from day-to-day operations. Cali's death was a significant blow to the family, and speculation arose about Cheffelu possibly resuming control or Lorenzo Manino stepping in as acting boss. Keeping the true leadership hidden from authorities has been a strategic move for the Sicilian faction of the Gambino family. Cheffelu has managed to stay away from prison, but the next on our list has made it his second home. Michael Mancuso. Michael "The Nose" Mancuso, born on July 18, 1955, is an American mobster and the boss of the Bonanno crime family, one of the 5 families in New York City. In June 2013, while imprisoned, Mancuso was picked as the new official boss of the Bonanno family. During the early 1980s, before joining the Bonanno family, Mancuso was affiliated with the East Harlem Purple Gang. In August 1984, Mancuso fatally shot his wife Evelina and left her body on a bench in front of Jacobi Hospital in the Bronx. Mancuso pleaded guilty to manslaughter of his wife and received a 10-year prison sentence. In 2004, Vincent Bassiano promoted Michael Mancuso to acting underboss, and he became acting boss in November after Bassiano's imprisonment. In May 2005, Joseph Massino implicated Mancuso in the 1999 murder of Gerlando Sciascia, and in early 2006, Bassiano allegedly ordered Mancuso's murder. On February 16, 2006, Mancuso was arrested for ordering the murder of Randolph Pizzolo on November 30, 2004, which was carried out by Anthony Ace Aiello. Both Mancuso and Aiello pled guilty on August 6, 2008, and were sentenced to prison, with Mancuso receiving 15 years and Aiello 30 years. While imprisoned, Mancuso was picked as the new official boss of the family. Mancuso was controlling the family through his Bronx associates and underboss Thomas DiFiore. In 2015, he appointed Joseph Camerano Jr. to serve both as the Bonanno family street boss and acting underboss. On March 12, 2019, Mancuso was released from federal custody. On March March 9, 2022, Mancuso was arrested and was under investigation for violating the terms of his supervised release by associating with members of organized crime. On July 28, 2023, he was sentenced to a further 11 months in prison in connection with these violations. If you thought that was impressive, the next boss on our list will even shock you more. Victor Amuso. Vittorio Littlevic Amuso, born on November 4, 1934, is an American mobster and the boss of the Lucchese crime family. Assistant United States Attorney Charles Rose described him as the Deadly Don. Amuso's leadership, considered one of the bloodiest eras in American mafia history, spanned the late 1980s and early 1990s, alongside his former underboss and protege Anthony Casso, who turned informer in 1994. Following the death of Colombo crime family boss Carmine Persico in March 2019, Amuso became the longest-serving boss of the five families and the American Mafia, having led since 1987. He has been serving a life sentence since 1992 for murder and racketeering and is currently imprisoned at the Federal Correctional Complex in Butner, North Carolina. In early 1992, Vic Amuso, fearing rivalry within the Lucchese crime family, attempted to assert his control. On April 3, 1992, a gunman fired at Agnello Neil Migliore, a powerful capo, but Migliore survived. Despite the turmoil, Amuso appointed Stephen Wonderboy Crea as underboss, nearly sparking a war within the family. The power struggle continued with conspiracies and attempts on lives, but due to massive indictments, many rivals were imprisoned, allowing Amuso to maintain control from prison. Amuso promoted Louis Bagels Didone to consigliere and kept Joseph Little Joe DeFede and Stephen Crea in key positions to stabilize the family. As of July 2014, Vic Amuso remains the official boss of the Lucchese crime family. Mafia historian Selwyn Robb noted that Amuso's violent methods led to the loss of more than half the family's made members through death, imprisonment, or turning informant. In May 2019, former Lucchese soldier John Panisi testified against Eugene Castell, revealing that in 2017, Amuso had sent a letter from prison to underboss Stephen Crea, appointing Brooklyn mobster Michael Big Mike DeSantis as acting boss, replacing Matthew Madonna. Panisi's testimony also indicated that Amuso had approved a hit list if the Bronx faction refused to comply, targeting a captain and several members. Lorenzo Manino. Lorenzo Lore Manino, born on July 27, 1959, is an American mobster and a powerful caporegime in the Gambino crime family, currently serving as the front boss for Dominico Cheffelu. In 1994, Manino pleaded guilty to drug trafficking and conspiring to murder Francesco Oliveri in 1988, resulting in a 15-year prison sentence. He was released in 2004. The 1994 plea followed a 1993 trial involving John Gambino, Joseph Gambino, and Matteo Romano, which ended in a mistrial. Salvatore Gravano testified against them, detailing their involvement in Oliveri's murder and the Gambino family's drug activities. A 2007 New York Post article mentioned Manino's attempt to have Frank Sinatra help Al Martino find work in Las Vegas, highlighting Manino as a rising crime family star. Before rising to power in the Gambino crime family, Lorenzo served as the family's underboss from 2014 to 2018, primarily operating as a street boss in Brooklyn and Manhattan. In 2019, he ascended to the position of street boss of the Gambino crime family. In March 2019, Gambino soldier Paul Semplis received a 28-month prison term for a loan sharking operation. Semplis, in a wiretapped call, identified Manino as his supervisor. Despite his influential role, Lorenzo has maintained a low profile and is rarely seen in public. Just like Lorenzo, the next boss on our list would indirectly mock the laws governing the country. Michael DeSantis. Michael Big Mike DeSantis is the current acting boss of the Lucchese crime family. DeSantis is a member of the Brooklyn faction and a supporter of Vic Amuso. In November 1989, DeSantis was inducted into the crime family along with Richie Pagliarulo, Frank Federico, and two others, with the ceremony being conducted by boss Vic Amuso. On September 18, 1991, DeSantis, along with Capos Anthony Barata and Frank Lastarino and soldier Frankie Federico, conspired to kill Alphonse Darco in the Kimberly Hotel in Manhattan, but failed. DeSantis walked into the Kimberly Hotel wearing a bulletproof vest and a gun in his waistband, but Darco spotted the gun. While DeSantis went to hide the gun in the bathroom, Darco made his escape, eventually defecting and becoming a government witness. In April 1993, Michael DeSantis was indicted and jailed along with Frank Lastarino and Richard Pagliarulo on murder conspiracy, extortion, and other racketeering charges. DeSantis served 18 years in prison for his involvement in two 1980s murders for the boss. years. On June 28, 2010, he was released from prison. In May 2014, the FBI observed a sit-down on Long Island involving Michael DeSantis, his capo Carmine Avellino, and capo John Castellucci, along with Castellucci's crew member John Sorella, discussing illegal activities. DeSantis violated his parole during this meeting but avoided returning to prison due to shoulder replacement surgery, allowing him to stay in home detention until his parole ended on June 28, 2015. During the May 2019 testimony of government witness John Panisi, it was revealed that in 2017, imprisoned for life boss Vic Amuso sent a letter to underboss Stephen Crea stating that DeSantis would take over as acting boss, replacing Bronx-based Matthew Madonna. If Amuso's orders were not followed, he approved of murdering a number of Bronx faction members. DeSantis took over as acting boss after Madonna and Crea both stepped down and agreed to Amuso's orders. In May 2020, DeSantis was identified in an FBI surveillance photo meeting with Lucchese members in Jefferson Park. DeSantis may have spent more days out of prison than in prison, but the next boss on our list made prison his second home. Benjamin Castellato. Benjamin "the Claw" Castellato, reputed underboss of New York's Colombo crime family, exemplifies an elderly mobster who refuses to leave the life of crime. Despite being in his 80s, he continues to accumulate criminal charges. Castellato's first conviction came in 1959 for hijacking a carpeting truck, and he has remained active ever since. He earned the nickname "the Claw" due to his involvement in various criminal activities, though he also went by Benji. From gambling and narcotics trafficking to theft and extortion, nothing was off limits for Castellato. The mafia values hard workers who bring in substantial cash and keep quiet when caught, and Castellato excelled at this. He served several years for truck hijacking and additional time for his role in a heroin trafficking ring. In 1995, he served a couple of months for running illegal gambling operations. By then, he was a valued member of the Colombo crime family. In 2002, he was convicted of extortion, and authorities identified him as a capo in the family. After serving 3 years, he continued his rise, and in 2008, he was labeled as the underboss of a revitalized Colombo family, allegedly presiding over induction ceremonies for new members. Despite his powerful role, Castellato couldn't escape legal troubles. In 2011, he was indicted as part of the largest American mafia bust in history, involving 127 alleged mobsters from New York's 5 La Cosa Nostra families, New Jersey's De Cavalcante family, and New England's Patriarca family on various racketeering charges. Castellato pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy. In September 2021, he was charged with overseeing the takeover of a Queens labor union and its healthcare fund. The Colombo family had controlled the union since 2001, with Colombo captain Vincent Ricciardo and his cousin Dominic Ricciardo extorting money by threatening a senior union official. After his indictment, Castellato was detained in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where recorded phone calls to relatives provided prosecutors with additional evidence. Despite these calls, on March 9, 2022, a federal judge approved Castellato's release on a $1.6 million bond. He now spends his days in home detention with electronic monitoring and travel and contact restrictions, but that hasn't been able to stop his influence. Both Castellato and the next boss on our list share similar experiences, just that one of them is smarter than the other. Sergey Mkyov. Sergey Mkyov, also known as Mikas, is a Russian businessman and leader of the Solntsevskaya Bratva criminal syndicate. Born on February 7, 1958, he started as a waiter but entered the criminal world in 1987 after a 1984 fraud conviction. He formed the Solntsevo group with Viktor Avrin in the late 1980s, quickly gaining a reputation for extortion, counterfeiting, drug trafficking, and blackmail. In 1996, Mkyov was arrested in Switzerland for false documents and property laws, but was acquitted after 2 years in jail. Despite his criminal background, he has rebranded himself as a legitimate businessman with ties to the Russian Orthodox Church, utilizing Russia's right to forget law to remove information about his past from search engines. Mkylov's power extends from Moscow to Geneva, Miami, and the Middle East, making him one of the most powerful Russian mobsters. His Solntsevskaya organization is the largest in Russia, with approximately 5,000 members. Mkylov's criminal activities date back to the late 1980s, including a failed 1989 extortion charge and a 1996 arrest in Switzerland for organized crime involvement, from which he was acquitted. Despite numerous legal issues, he maintains that he has never been convicted in Russia or abroad. His organization has expanded into various legitimate businesses, controlling banks, casinos, car dealerships, and even an airport. Solidifying his influence both in Russia and internationally, Sergey Mkyov might have reformed, but the next on our list isn't having any of that as he continues terrorizing. Maxel Barahona Nadales. Maxel Barahona Nadales, known as El Contador, is considered by Mexican authorities to be a highly dangerous criminal. He is one of the 4 most dangerous Zetas, with an operational area spanning from Veracruz to Chiapas. The PGR describes him as extremely dangerous, controlling the group in Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas, and believed to order murders on the Tamaulipas border. Not much is known about him, but he was once a member of the Mexican Special Forces. He is also known by aliases such as El-19, El-Max, and El-Maxile. The PGR is offering a reward of 10 million pesos for Maxel Barahona Nadales' involvement in the Los Zetas cartel, ordering numerous homicides, kidnappings, and grenade attacks. Los Zetas, formed in 2010, are notorious for extreme violence, and their operations span extortion, kidnapping, gun running, and drug trafficking. Nadales, a former member of the Mexican Special Forces, has a substantial reward for information leading to his capture. Key Zetas figures killed include Galindo Mulatto Cruz, LZ9, Heriberto Lascano, Z3, Miguel Angel Trevino Morales, Z40, and Alejandro Trevino Morales, Z42. Barahona Nadales is the only top Zeta still alive, making him a significant target for law enforcement. As dangerous as he may be, the next mafia boss will shock you more. Dawood Ibrahim. Dawood Ibrahim, born on December 26, 1955, is an Indian mob boss, drug lord, and terrorist. He is the head of the Indian organized crime syndicate D Company, which he founded in Mumbai in the 1970s. Ibrahim is wanted for charges including murder, extortion, targeted killing, drug trafficking, and terrorism. In 2003, he was designated a global terrorist by India and the United States, with a $25 million reward for his suspected role in the 1993 Bombay bombings. In 2011, he was ranked number 2 on the FBI's The World's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list and 4th on Forbes' list. In 2020, the Pakistani government included him in its sanction list to avoid FATF sanctions, although Pakistan denies he resides in Karachi. Dawood Ibrahim began his criminal career in his teens, committing fraud, theft, and robbery before joining the gang of local gangster Bashu Dada. In the late 1970s, he and his brother Shabir Ibrahim Kaskar formed their own gang, D Company. After Shabir was killed by the rival Pathan gang, Dawood took over as the sole leader, engaging in gold smuggling, real estate, extortion, and drug trafficking. He fled to Dubai in 1986 to evade the Mumbai police for a murder charge and expanded his operations with Chota Rajan, growing the gang to over 5,000 members by the early 1990s. Ibrahim is accused of masterminding the 1993 Mumbai attacks and subsequently fled to Karachi. The U.S. Department of the Treasury has designated him a terrorist, seizing his assets and cutting off financial ties. His syndicate allegedly shares smuggling routes with Al-Qaeda and has been involved in narcotics trafficking in Europe. Dawood is linked to terrorism, drug trafficking, extortion, and money laundering, with significant investments in real estate. He controls the Hawala system for unofficial money transfers and was implicated in the financing of attacks in Gujarat. His syndicate operates across Asia, Europe, and Africa, with a substantial portion of its earnings from India. In June 2017, Ram Jethmalani publicly revealed that after the Bombay blasts, Ibrahim had called him from London, expressing his willingness to return to India and stand trial, provided he was not subjected to police brutality. Jethmalani conveyed this message to Sharad Pawar, but the politicians in power rejected the proposal. According to Jethmalani, their refusal was driven by fears that Ibrahim might expose their secrets, and that was how a man like Ibrahim, who killed many, was able to walk away freely. Jose El Mauro Ortiz. Jose Antonio Yepes Ortiz, also known as El Mauro, the Sledgehammer, and the Brown, was a Mexican suspected drug trafficker and fuel thief who led the Santa Rosa de Lima cartel, CSRL, from 2017 to 2020. His cartel was notorious for fuel theft in Guanajuato, Mexico. However, by June 2020, the CSRL had lost most of its members due to heavy losses against the rival Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG. On August 2, 2020, El Mauro was captured by state and federal authorities in Juventino Rosas, Guanajuato, and transferred to the maximum security federal prison, Altiplano. El Mauro began his criminal career in 2010, directing drug transfers and vehicle thefts. He managed to evade capture several times by using tactics like narco blockades. In 2019, he formed an alliance with the Gulf Cartel's armed wing, Special Forces Grupo Sombra, to counter the CJNG. In July 2019, authorities froze over $35 million from his accounts, seized properties and vehicles, dealing a significant blow to his operation. operations. On June 22, 2020, El Maro's mother, sister, and cousin were among 26 cartel members arrested in Celaya, Guanajuato. Maria Ortiz, his mother and a financier for the cartel, had over 2 million pesos and methamphetamine when detained. Despite the arrests, El Maro managed to escape and considered alliances with other cartels, including the Sinaloa cartel. He remained a target for CJang assassins who made several attempts on his life, including at his sister's wedding. El Maro's eventual capture on August 2, 2020, resulted from a joint operation between Guanajuato's state government and Mexico's Secretariat of Public Security. During this operation, 5 other people were detained and a kidnapped businesswoman was rescued. On January 14, 2022, El Maro was convicted of aggravated kidnapping and sentenced to 60 years in prison. Despite his imprisonment, the Santa Rosa de Lima cartel continues to compete with the CJang for control of territory and illegal operations in the region. Thanks for watching. If you found this video shocking and informative, be sure to check out other similar and amazing videos on the screen. I'll see you in the next video.